Hi, I'm Heather Pemberton Levy, Vice President of Content Marketing at Gartner. We're excited to be on LinkedIn Live, and today we're talking about what matters most to marketers. Joining me is Jay Wilson, Vice President of Research at Gartner for Marketers. And Jay knows what's on the mind of marketers because he recently chaired our Gartner Marketing Symposium Expo in San Diego. And in the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about what were the most popular sessions. Some were rather surprising. And what's on the minds of marketers now as far as trust and customer experience. How can they get it right? Some of the differences between Gen Z and millennials, and there are some differences. And we also want to take your questions, so start posting them. We'll be taking them live later in the program. So Jay, all of these marketing leaders got together at the conference to hear the latest trends and insights and strategic thinking and research from Gartner experts. What were the big themes?
Well, it was a really exciting conference, and first off, really excited to be here with you today, Heather. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about what matters most to marketers. So in San Diego, we had nearly 2,000 senior marketing leaders come together for a 3-day conference. They were able to absorb a lot of content from Gartner experts, but I think importantly too, they were able to commiserate with each other, and that certainly is a really important aspect of the conference itself. And that's where we start to identify some of the key themes and what really does matter most to marketers here in 2019. And I think the big theme that we saw really is, over the past 4 or 5 years, CMOs have really been on the rise. Their budgets have been going up. Their influence within their organizations has been going up. They've been building bigger and bigger staffs and in-house agencies. So we've kind of reached this inflection point, if you will, where now their feet are being held to the fire and they're looking to prove out the results of all these marketing investments. In order to be able to do that, certainly they need to focus on the fundamentals of things like data and analytics and multi-channel marketing. But in our opening keynote, I think our opening keynote speaker, Brent Adamson of Gartner, really gave us a good lens with which to look at this. And that was, what is the role that marketing can play in helping customers, in helping prospects? And so that was one of the big themes that emerged here, along with, all of the CMOs' increased responsibilities around customer experience, around spending on marketing technology, on insourcing and building out in-house agencies, and really being, in many ways, responsible for product and service innovation to fend off disruptive competitors. And that's a role that the CMOs have never really played before. So I think the overall theme was really the changing role of the CMO.
Right. And I know I attended a couple of the CMO dedicated sessions. There was a CMO circle where we had specific tracks just for those chief marketing officers. And they have a lot on their plates now, right? That it seems to be changing and there are more demands placed on that role. What trends do you see happening specifically for the CMO? Are there any risks there?
Certainly there's a lot of risk, but we like to also think that there's a lot of opportunity. And one of the benefits of this conference for our clients is really helping them seize the opportunities while avoiding those risks. But I mean, if you look at news over the past year, 2 years, we certainly see, at least a handful of Fortune 500 companies that have eliminated the CMO role entirely. Other CMOs are feeling, some competitive threats from the chief customer officer or the chief digital officer. So certainly they're in a position of risk, but we also believe that they're in a huge position of opportunity.
Right. Now, at our conference, not only are there all of the big keynotes and lots of sessions, but there are also these one-on-one sessions, which are opportunities for our attendees to sit down with Gartner experts and have a personalized consulting session where they can talk about their mission-critical priorities, their strategic initiatives, and get that one-on-one counseling. I imagine that was an opportunity to really understand what's on the mind of marketers now and right in the midst of 2019. What are their big issues?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we certainly do our due diligence in planning the conference and developing content that we believe meets the needs of marketers, but it's really in those one-on-one sessions, and I can tell you we did nearly 900 of them over the course of 3 days. So it was a great source of insight for us when we did some quantitative analysis around those 900 one-on-one sessions that are essentially conducted at a table just like this between 2 of us or perhaps 3 of us. A couple of big topics emerged as the most popular topics for these one-on-ones. And certainly it was no surprise to see that customer experience was one of the top ranked topic and most frequent topics of conversation in those one-on-one sessions. But it was also about multi-channel marketing. It was about marketing technology, and certainly around some of the struggles that clients are still having with data and analytics. We're well past the era of quote unquote big data, and now it's about how do I really get value out of my customer data and other sources of data. So, throughout all of these 900 one-on-one sessions, and we did have 60 Gartner experts on site conducting those sessions, it really was an opportunity, if I'm an attendee and perhaps I've attended, 2 or 3 customer experience or CX sessions, I'm able to then, sit down with a Gartner analyst or an advisor and say, all right, this is what I've learned. How does it apply to my business specifically? And that's where they get that personal kind of hand-holding and consultation. So they might start diving into things like customer journey maps, or how to measure, what are the right KPIs to measure the results of your CX investments.
We want to hear from you. What questions would you pose in a one-on-one session? Join the conversation. We're glad you're here listening to our LinkedIn Live program. Post your questions because we'll be taking them later in the program. Okay, Jay, let's talk about something else that came up at the conference,
Yes.
and that was this notion of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is so important for customers, of course, that they trust brands, and we know what that does for customer experience and, of course, for the purchase process. But talk a little bit about what marketers are hearing now about how important trust is.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust is something that is certainly on the decline across the board, particularly in the United States and in the Western European countries. You can look at many studies that show that trust in government institutions, trust in media, trust in business, even trust in peers is on a pretty rapid decline. We see decline in trust in social media platforms. So trust and reestablishing trust, or holding on to trust that you may already have with your consumers, is certainly a really important topic. And a lot of people were asking, what's causing this decline in trust? And if I think back over the last couple of years, there's been this kind of erosion of a common fact base. In especially American society and in the UK. So, there's a lack of trust in institutions, there's a lack of trust in media, and I do think that consumers, especially millennials and Gen Zers, are looking to brands or looking to business more broadly to help address some societal issues. So trust is certainly at the top of mind for marketers. How do we hold on to it, or how do we regain it, especially if you're one of those brands who's had a public relations crisis in the past couple of years, and there have been many of those.
And how do some brands establish that type of trust? Do we have some examples?
Sure. It's, one of the areas that I love to focus on is the area of purpose-driven marketing. And so, there is a lot of interest from our clients in how they can make the world a better place through the power of their brands and the power of their businesses. So, for example, at the conference in San Diego, I did a presentation with David Friedlander of National Geographic. And as many people know, National Geographic been around for 140 years. They really have purpose at their core in terms of the environment and making the earth sustainable. So David and I talked about the role of purpose and the role of brands taking stands on social and political issues, and what that can mean from a business perspective. So, if we think about purpose-driven marketing, there's a lot of different terms that are used for this, social impact, social good, corporate social responsibility, and we tried to put a construct around that to say, all right, most brands can align themselves or have some type of purpose at their core, and it's not necessarily about the environment or politics or society. You can look at examples like Nike, right? So Nike manufactures athletic apparel and shoes, but their purpose, if you were to ask Nike, is to inspire the inner athlete in every one of us. You can look at a brand like Apple, right? Apple manufactures iPhones and iPads and everything else, but really their purpose is to bring out the creative juices in everyone. So there's kind of a brand's higher purpose. And then what many brands do is they then look to find a cause or a series of causes that align to that purpose. So for Nike, that might be, supporting athletes in developing countries or in the inner cities. And then the next level down is, and where a lot of brands don't go yet, but is a way to either establish trust or potentially put your trust at risk, is in what we call societal impact. And that's when brands decide to take a stand on a kind of hot button issue, either in politics or society. So Nike may have done something like that when they brought on Colin Kaepernick to be their spokesperson. So trust, purpose-driven marketing, I think marketers at their core want to make the world a better place, and they're starting to recognize that their brands have the power to do that.
Interesting. So one generation where that really matters is this rising generation called Gen Z.
Yes.
I attended this great session by Gartner expert Jack McKinnon where he talked about Gen Z, gave some really great data around it, and talked about the differences between Gen Z and millennials.
Right.
And I found them really striking. Now, I have a couple Gen Zers at home.
As do I.
And so it rang true. And of course, when you live with them, it all makes sense. But one of the things he was talking about is how they follow their friends and not so many brands.
Right.
And how brands have to play this role of the sidecar, he called it.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit more about that for our viewers who are joining us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Gen Z, and I have a couple of them myself, so I'm witnessing their social media behaviors as we speak. First and foremost, it's an incredibly important generation. We have heard marketers talk, ad nauseum about millennials over the past few years. Gen Z is actually a larger percentage of the global population than are millennials. I think it's tagged at about 32% of the global population falls within Generation Z. And just to further define it, the way we look at Generation Z is those that are 23 years and younger, whereas millennials range from 24 years all the way up to 40 years now. So they're starting to get older and wiser, no doubt. But Generation Z has some very distinct behaviors, right? So millennials were certainly known as kind of the digital native generation, but Gen Zers take that to a whole nother level because they were born as platforms like Facebook and Twitter were already well established, so they've had that as a constant in their lives. In fact, they spend about 53% of their leisure time in front of a screen.
I believe it.
Oh yeah. That may actually be a low estimate when I look at my own household. So certainly, some digital behaviors there. But for marketers, what's interesting is that when we surveyed Generation Z, 82% of them will immediately skip past a digital advertisement as soon as they see it. So when we're talking to marketing leaders and CMOs who are spending 2/3 of their marketing budgets on digital, that has some really significant implications. Now, you mentioned Jack was talking about kind of the role of the brand as a sidecar, and I think we've seen this coming even with millennials for some time, which is, Gen Zers don't follow brands because they want to be a part of that brand's world. They want the brand to play a supporting role in their own journey and their own personal brand. So that's what Jack was referring to in terms of brands playing the role of sidecars. And I think it all ties back to this idea of help, right? That Brent Adamson was talking about in the keynote, which is, brands need to find ways to play that supporting role to help their clients, their prospects, and I think this applies equally to B2B or B2C marketers, help them achieve their goals, overcome their challenges. So that's what Jack was referring to in terms of brands as a sidecar and playing that supporting role and finding the way that your brand can do that.
Right, it's a really specific role to play. Are you marketing to Gen Z? I hope you're posting your questions. We're going to take them in just a little bit. So let's talk about the technologies that marketers need to use to enable all of these programs, because Technology is so important to drive marketing, multi-channel marketing, customer experience, personalization, which is
Right.
so important. So Gartner covers a lot of the technologies and it advises marketing leaders on how to implement them, but it's a hard job. So
Yes.
what were you hearing at the conference? What do you hear, what do all, our experts hear from marketing leaders as they're talking to them throughout the year as far as where are they in this kind of journey to adopting new technologies?
Absolutely. Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the upfront, which is that marketers are now spending almost as much on technology as their CIO counterparts. So marketers are spending more and more on marketing technology. It was about 29% of their overall budgets, according to our CMO spend survey this past year. So they're spending a lot of money. They're not necessarily doing it the right way, and certainly there are a lot of tools to help them make the right decisions. We've got Magic Quadrants here at Gartner. We have market guides that cover pretty much every aspect of marketing technology you could think of. But that takes you to a certain point, and then you have to actually procure and implement and deploy that technology and gain user adoption of that technology, and that's where marketers are really kind of struggling. So we did a marketing technology survey recently of senior marketing leaders, and over half of them, just a little bit over half, but over half of them told us they don't think their marketing organizations are very good at acquiring technology and deploying it. So that's where they really need to work closely with their CIO counterparts to make sure that they're putting the right requirements out into the marketplace and that they're deploying those technologies correctly. So it's a big challenge. There's a lot of marketing technologies to choose from. And I think one of the big trends that I've seen, and I cover a lot of social media marketing technology, and one of the big trends that we've seen on that front is a lot of consolidation of technology over the past couple of years. But certainly the technology conversation was a big driver of those one-on-one inquiries, and we actually had a whole virtual track dedicated to marketing technology at the conference.
Right. All right, now let's get to the most popular sessions.
Yes.
Talk to us about what rooms were filled, where did marketers spend their time, and were there any surprises?
There's always surprises, and most of the rooms were filled, but there definitely were some surprises in terms of what really was most popular. Some things that weren't surprising as much were that our customer experience sessions were really some of the most popular in terms of attendance. Cassandra Nordland on our team did a great session on customer journey mapping that was one of the top attended sessions. So, those are kind of obvious because those are big challenges that the marketers want to learn more about and they want to get more successful at. But we had a session on, it was called China Decoded, and it was really about, how as a global marketer, you can make an impact with the Chinese market. And that was one of the top-rated sessions of the entire conference. That was done by a woman, Danielle Bailey. So that was, kind of surprising how much interest that generated in San Diego. So China is a huge opportunity for a lot of marketers. We know that things like Singles Day, the big shopping day in China, actually generates more revenue in one day than all U.S. shopping holidays combined.
Huge market.
Absolutely. So that's where we see a lot of interest coming. Another thing that was really interesting to me was that some of the more foundational sessions around some of the multi-channel marketing best practices and disciplines and channels were also really highly attended. So Ewan McIntyre did a session on search marketing that was one of our most attended sessions. And I think that brings us back to this kind of idea that, marketers have been, I don't want to say distracted because it's important, but they've been really focused on these big innovative ideas and, transforming their organizations. And, a while back I was talking to a client who said they were talking about working with an agency. And this was a great agency, a big agency, really capable agency. And they said, hey, listen, this agency comes to us with really great big ideas, really big picture thinking, really creative thinking, but I can't get my weekly reports on time. And so a return to the fundamentals, whether it's around search or it's around social media marketing, that was another thing that I think came out of this conference was that marketers are recognizing, yes, I have to prove out the value of these investments that I've made, how do I do that? And if I'm kind of, letting things slip through the cracks over here while I'm focused on big picture stuff, that's going to become an issue. So a lot of our multi-channel marketing sessions were really, really popular.
Interesting. So speaking of weekly reports,
Yes.
makes me think of data. And we all need and want data because we have to see what's happening to know how to optimize and to keep our programs running and to innovate.
Right.
But getting the right data continues to be a struggle.
It does.
So what did we hear at the conference is on marketers' minds about getting data? What are they struggling with? Is it the technology? Is it the talent? And what did our experts have to say about it?
Well, you nailed it with the talent. I think that's a big challenge that a lot of marketers are having, right? We certainly have no lack of data, whether it's first-party customer data or third-party data sources. There's plenty of that, and we have plenty of technology. We've spent a lot of money on technology to try to extract insights and value from that data and put that data to work for us. The key kind of gap, I think, and we heard this at the conference, is around the organizational design and hiring the right skill sets to be able to do that, to do two key things, I think. One is to have the technical knowledge to be able to work with the data, and two is to have the ability to tell a story with data, to turn data into a narrative that can change minds at the C-level and affect change in an organization. So I know that a lot of our data and analytics analysts and advisors were talking to clients in San Diego about, how they hire the right skill sets for their data and analytics organizations, how those organizations should be structured. We do a marketing organization design survey on an annual basis, and that survey has shown us that marketers tell us that data and analytics skills are the single most important skill to their organization's success, and at the same time, those skills are the most difficult to hire for. So I think it really is about, the people and the skill sets.
That's tough.
It is.
Okay, so now we're ready to take your questions. Greg is going to read us questions that have been posted online. So Greg, let's hear the first question.
So our first question is from Ian. He's from Seattle, and Ian asks, is there a preferred social media channel organizations should focus on?
Good question. And the quick answer, I think, is no. In fact, definitely it's no. And I'll give you an example, which is, we talk to a lot of business-to-business marketers, and when we think about business-to-business marketing, we think of LinkedIn, right, where we are right now, obviously. But a lot of B2B marketers haven't done enough, I think, with their Facebook advertising or their influencer marketing. Those are all kind of nascent areas for business-to-business marketers. So in terms of your question, I would say no, you don't want to focus on one single most important channel. What you want to do is probably ask yourself kind of 5 key questions around what you're trying to accomplish in social. And the first question would be, who are you trying to reach? The second question would be, where are you going to find those people? Which social networks, whether it's LinkedIn or Quora or Reddit or anywhere else. The third question would be, what type of content do you have at your disposal, or can you develop to engage those people? And maybe it's for a B2B marketer, maybe it's live webinars, maybe it's white papers, video content, those types of things. Then the fourth question, I think that probably the most important question, is what action do you want these people to take, your audience to take, as a result of seeing your content, engaging with your content? And then the fifth question is really, how are you going to measure the success, measure the results of that? So I think for each and every organization, you're going to have a different mix of social media networks that you want to really focus on.
Do we have a second question, Greg?
Yes, we do. Our next question is from Susan. She's from Frankfurt, and she asks, how can an organization strike a balance between taking a stance on social issues and being too provocative?
Oh,
that's a good one. And that's actually a really common question that we get when we do some presentations on purpose-driven marketing and brands taking stance. And I think the quick answer that I would give is an answer actually that Richard Edelman gave last year at last year's conference when we presented on purpose-driven marketing and some of the risks around it. And what he said was that no matter what, in the end, you have to remain true to your brand's values. And so if you don't know what those are, you really need to look inside and figure out what that looks like first and foremost. And then it's really, the data shows that, our customers expect brands to take a stand on issues that matter to them. So then it's a question of what really matters to your customers. If that aligns to your brand's values, then I think you take the leap of faith and you push forward in that particular area or on that particular that particular issue. No matter what, you're probably going to face some risk. You're going to alienate part of your audience. Certainly, Nike alienated a good part of its audience with the Colin Kaepernick move, and we see other brands taking these calculated risks about where they want to get involved and where they don't, where they want to stay on the sidelines.
Tough choice.
Very tough choices.
One more question, Greg.
Final question is from John. John is in New York, and he asks, what are some ways B2B marketers can be successful on social media?
Well, there's a bunch of ways that B2B marketers can be successful in social. And, we've seen that B2B marketers have been perhaps a little bit behind the curve as compared to their B2C counterparts when it comes to social, but they're quickly catching up. There have been some amazing results that we've seen from IBM and from Maersk, the shipping line, in social media, on Instagram in particular, which you wouldn't really associate with like a shipping company. But, some really great examples that are out there, but, there's some various use cases in social media that business-to-business marketers can put to good use. And those are around things like employee advocacy and social selling. That's where you're essentially empowering your employees and your salespeople to carry a message to their audiences in social media. Influencer marketing is still relatively nascent in the B2B space, and certainly a lot of B2C marketers have gotten value there. And I think putting more dollars behind social media advertising is something where we see B2B marketers a little bit more behind than their B2C counterparts. So a lot of opportunities for B2B marketers out there.
Well, thank you all for your questions. Keep your posts coming. Thank you, Jay, for a really informative and eye-opening discussion about what's on the mind of marketers now here in middle of 2019. Thank you all for sticking with us, and keep posting. Stay tuned to our channel. There will be more updates coming. We will have more live programming. Click on the link and you will be taken to free research related to the conference and to some of the themes we talked about. We have free articles that cover the key trends. There are some complimentary ebooks about personalization and data and analytics. You can browse around our Gartner for Marketers practice and learn a lot more about our various experts. And we will continue to explore live programming for LinkedIn. We want to know what you want us to cover. So post, share your ideas and your thoughts. We can't wait to hear, and see you again soon. Take care.
Thanks.